The night felt different, not darker, just heavier, like the air itself was waiting for something it couldn't explain. Every sound was distant, every light seemed softer, as if the world knew something I didn't. I had been restless all evening. Nothing felt normal. Not the way the wind moved, not the way my chest tightened, not even the silence. It was loud, almost breathing. I sat by the window, watching the moon hover above a quiet earth, and for the first time in a long time, I felt small but seen. It was almost midnight when it happened, not a voice, not a vision, a presence, the kind that enters without asking but fills every corner of your soul, and I knew he was here. You asked to hear me, he said. But before you can hear me, you must feel me. I froze, the air trembled softly, and everything around me went still. The clock stopped ticking, the candle stopped flickering, even time bowed its head. The world listens with its ears, he said, but heaven speaks to the heart. His words didn't echo, they settled, they carried warmth, like light that knows where to land. There are moments, he said, when my voice doesn't come through sound, but through stirring, when you feel peace for no reason, or tears you can't explain. That is me. I swallowed hard. Because I'd felt that before, those sudden moments when your spirit wakes up for no reason, when you can't tell if you're breaking or being healed. Tonight, he said, I'm not speaking through thunder or signs, I'm moving through stillness. The candlelight shimmered again, as though it was breathing in rhythm with his words. Tell them, he said, the message I bring tonight cannot be heard through noise. It must be felt in the quiet. I whispered, Lord, what do you mean? My people have learned to worship me with sound. He said, but they've forgotten how to wait for me in silence. He paused, and in that pause I could feel his heart not as sound, but as pulse, like the world itself was beating in time with heaven. I've sent signs, he said. I've spoken through storms and dreams, but they look for me everywhere except in themselves. Lightning flashed outside, faint, distant, but it wasn't frightening. It looked alive. Tonight, he said, my message won't shake mountains, it will stir hearts. I could barely breathe, because in that moment, it felt like he wasn't just talking to me, he was talking to everyone. They keep asking for signs of my return, he said, but they miss the signs of my presence. The flame flickered harder now, casting soft shadows across the walls like ripples of light. I'm closer than they think, he said, but they've filled their world with noise so loud that even my whisper sounds distant. I lowered my head, trembling, because I knew I'd done the same, filled every hour with words, and left no space for wonder. Peace isn't missing, he said softly. It's buried under everything they've chosen instead of me. His tone grew gentler. Tell them I don't shout, I draw, I stir, I awaken. And then I felt it, a warmth rising from within, like every cell in my body was remembering something holy. It wasn't emotion, it was encounter. You'll feel it before you hear it, he said, because what I'm sending next isn't a message for minds, it's a call for souls. The air shifted again, the candle flame steadied, and a faint wind brushed through the room, even though the windows were closed. This message is not for everyone, he said, only those who are still enough to sense it. I whispered, what will they feel? A weight that isn't heavy, he said, a sorrow that heals, a stirring that feels like longing. That's me moving before I speak. The silence deepened, not empty, but full, and suddenly I understood the stillness wasn't the absence of God. It was the arrival. Tell them, he said, I still come in the cool of the evening, but they must be listening with more than their ears. My heart raced. Every word he spoke felt like it was carving something eternal into me. I will awaken hearts tonight, he said, not with thunder, but with tenderness. I asked quietly, what should I tell them to do? Nothing, he said. Just feel, sit in the stillness, breathe, let me remind them what peace sounds like inside. And then he paused one last time. Before the noise begins again, they'll feel a stirring. That's me. Don't explain it, just recognize it. The light dimmed. The air softened, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't need proof that he was there. I could feel him before I could even hear him. If you're reading this right now, and something inside you feels like it's stirring, don't ignore it. That's not emotion, that's encounter. Write I feel him in the comments, because maybe tonight you didn't hear him but you felt him. That night didn't end when the clock said it did, because some nights aren't measured by time, they're measured by what's revealed. And that night, something in me had opened. I could still feel him there, not beside me, inside me. Every breath felt like a whisper of heaven that hadn't yet turned into words. I sat in the same place, afraid to move, because it felt like if I even blinked too long, I'd miss what he wanted to show. The air was alive again, slow, golden, trembling softly. The message I gave tonight, he said, is not meant to be understood in a moment, but lived through a season. His words felt like a thread pulling me deeper, not away from reality, but closer to truth. Before my voice comes, he said, there must be stillness in the heart, because my words can't grow in noise. A wind brushed across the window, carrying a scent I couldn't describe, clean, ancient, like the breath before rain. It filled the room with warmth. Tell them, he continued, that I have been speaking, but few have been still enough to feel it. He paused again, and the silence around his words became a language of its own. They think I am far because I am quiet, he said, but quiet is how I draw near. The candle light stretched across the floor like liquid gold. It pulsed faintly at first, then stronger, almost matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. I am moving, he said, in ways they don't yet see, through unanswered prayers, through restless nights, through quiet grief. I whispered, but Lord, why grief? Because grief breaks what pride protects. He said, and in the cracks, light finally has space to live. His tone was both gentle and piercing. They've mistaken comfort for faith. He said, but faith isn't found in what feels safe, it's born in surrender. My eyes burned. Not from fear, from understanding. He wasn't angry, he was mourning. The message for tonight, he said softly, is this: I am near to those who ache. Tears slipped down my face before I even realized I was crying. Because that truth, simple as it was, felt heavier than any sermon, any prophecy, any sound I'd ever heard. When they feel empty, he said, that's where I am filling them. When they feel lost, that's where I'm finding them. I looked outside. The sky had turned a strange shade of blue, black deep, like the color of waiting. There's a reason, he said, I didn't speak loudly tonight. My people have confused volume with presence. They chase voices that stir their emotions and miss the one that stirs their soul. I asked, so what happens next? A shaking, he said, not to destroy, to divide. Lightning rippled far across the horizon, slow, silent, white fire. I'm separating those who love me from those who use me. He said, I'm removing what hides behind worship but doesn't carry love. I could almost feel the weight of his grief in those words. It wasn't wrath, it was heartbreak. They will see doors close, he said, not because I've abandoned them, but because I'm redirecting them to what's real. The room dimmed. The candle flickered not out of fear, but reverence, and in that glow I felt his presence draw closer again. The ones who will know my message, he said, are not those with the loudest voices, but those with the softest hearts. I swallowed hard, realizing how far I'd drifted from that kind of stillness. Tonight was never about sound, he said. It was about sensitivity. He paused, and then his voice softened even more, so low it felt like memory more than sound. You'll feel me before you hear me, because feeling me means your spirit has remembered mine. And then the light in the room changed, not brighter, just purer. The shadows faded, and I saw something not with my eyes, but with that place inside me that only wakes when heaven draws near. A vision, a vast field, golden light stretching endlessly, but in the middle, a single tree stood alone. Its roots reached deep, glowing faintly beneath the ground. This is the heart that waits for me, he said. It looks still on the surface, but beneath it, life is forming. The wind began to move again, soft but sure. Those who wait in the stillness, he said, will be the first to recognize my movement. I whispered, Lord, what about the ones who can't feel you anymore? He sighed, not in frustration, but like a father remembering his children. They will, he said. When the noise finally fails them, they'll remember what peace felt like and realize it was me. Outside, thunder rolled not sharp, but deep and steady. It didn't sound like warning. It sounded like awakening. This is the beginning, he said, Before they hear what I will speak, they will feel the ground beneath them change. The candle burned steady now, no flicker, no wind, just perfect stillness. When you tell them this, he said, don't try to convince. Just describe the silence and I'll do the rest. And then, like before, the air began to hum low, golden, eternal. My heart moved with it. And I knew this wasn't the end of his message. It was the beginning of awakening. If you've been feeling that same stirring, that quiet ache you can't explain, don't push it away. That's him. You'll feel him before you hear him. Right? I feel the shift in the comments, because what's coming next? You'll feel before the world can name it. The night had gone quiet again, but this time, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was alive. Like something beneath the surface of the world had started to breathe. I could feel it in the hum of the ground, in the pressure in my chest, in the way even the shadows seemed to wait. It's beginning, he said. The shaking. His voice wasn't loud, it came like wind through a doorway, soft but unignorable. Everything that was built on comfort will tremble, he said, and what's left will finally be truth. I wanted to ask what he meant, but the air answered before I could. The candle beside me flickered violently, its flames stretching high and thin, and in that light I saw dust rise, tiny, glowing particles dancing like souls waking from sleep. You asked to hear my message? He said, but my message can't be understood without movement. Words without awakening are just echoes. I whispered, so this shaking, is it punishment? No, he said, it's alignment. His words carried weight, not anger, but mercy that burned. The world called peace what was really distraction, he said. They called noise comfort because silence convicted them. The ground seemed to hum beneath my feet now, not like an earthquake, but like the heartbeat of creation remembering who it belongs to. I'm calling my people back, he said, but I won't call through thunder. I'll call through ache. I felt tears forming again, but they weren't from sorrow, they were from recognition. They've mistaken my stillness for absence. He said, but absence is where longing begins, and longing is where love returns. The air thickened. Somewhere outside, a dog barked once, then the world went still again. When I said, you'll feel it before you hear it. He said, I meant this. Before my message becomes words, it must first become a weight on the heart. I nodded slowly, every muscle tense, every thought quiet. They will feel unease, he said, not because I am cruel, but because I am cleansing. Images flashed behind my eyes, cities glowing with light, but empty of peace. Churches filled, but hearts cold. Faces smiling while their souls slept. The shaking, he said, will wake what sermons could not. I saw people kneeling in their homes, not because they were told to, but because something in them broke and recognized him again. When the shaking begins, he said, tell them not to fear. Fear belongs to the ones who built without me. Lightning tore across the horizon, silent, white, clean. And suddenly, I felt what he meant, a trembling not of the earth, but of the soul, like truth pulling at everything false inside. They will lose things they thought were blessings, he said, but what remains will be pure. The wind picked up papers shifted on the table. The candle's flame curved sideways but didn't die. I am raising those who learned to listen in silence, he said. They will carry peace into the storm. His tone changed deeper, slower, almost sorrowful. The enemy has learned to speak louder, he said, so I'm teaching mine to listen deeper. That line pierced straight through me, because I knew the world had gotten loud. So loud that even faith started competing for volume. They think I've been quiet, he said, but I've been speaking through stillness, waiting for them to notice the pause before the storm. I asked, and what happens when they finally do? Then, he said, the word becomes sound again. The light in the room flared, not blinding, but absolute. And I heard it, a sound that wasn't sound, a tone that wasn't tone, like a heartbeat mixed with thunder, like heaven exhaling. This is what comes after feeling, he said, when presence turns to purpose. My heart raced. Every part of me wanted to fall to my knees, not out of fear, but surrender. I will speak soon, he said, but when I do, only those who learned to feel will recognize my voice. The vision shifted again. Now I saw a vast ocean, still, black, endless, and then a single drop of light fell into it. The water rippled, glowing rings spreading outward, touching everything in silence first. Then sound, that, he said, is how I move. He paused. I don't come as storms, I begin as stillness, and I realized the shaking wasn't chaos, it was order returning to creation. They prayed for revival, he said, but they didn't know it would begin with silence. His tone softened again, warm, near. Before the dawn, he said, the world must stand still. I looked at the candle. It burned perfectly straight, no flicker, no sway, and in that flame I saw something that made my breath stop, a reflection, faint but alive. Not my face, his light. This is what I want them to know, he said. I am not absent in quiet places. I am building what sound cannot. The hum grew louder, not outside, but inside my chest. The silence had turned into a pulse. What you feel now, he said, the world will soon feel too. The night is almost over. My voice is near. And then nothing, no sound, no movement. Just breathe mine and his, somehow one. If you're reading this and something in you feels like the air has changed, don't run from it. He's coming softly first, before the thunder, before the light, you'll feel him. Write I'm ready to hear in the comments, because what's next won't just be felt, it will speak. The world outside was still sleeping, but I could feel it. The veil was thinner than before. It was still the same night, but it didn't feel like it belonged to time anymore. It felt eternal, like heaven had bent low enough to listen to earth breathe. The silence had shape now, a rhythm, a pulse, like waiting had become alive. Then he spoke. The moment has come, he said. The feeling has become sound. I didn't hear thunder, I heard truth. It came like a wave through my chest, not loud, but complete, like every word he'd ever spoken across eternity found its echo in my heart. This is the message for tonight, he said, not to frighten, but to wake, not to warn, but to call. The air shimmered not with light, but with meaning. I could feel the words shaping in me before they reached my mind. They weren't instruction, they were invitation. Tell them, he said, I am nearer than they believe, and gentler than they remember. His voice carried both thunder and tears. They think I dwell in clouds and sanctuaries, he said, but I walk unseen in their loneliness. My throat tightened, because I'd felt that loneliness and I knew he had too. I've been knocking, he said, not on walls, but on hearts too full to notice. The candle's flame stretched higher, like the room itself bowed to listen. The ones who will know me, he said, are not the perfect ones, but the broken ones who stayed. His words sank deep, as if they weren't entering my ears, but carving directly into my soul. They will hear me tonight, he said, not through noise, but through nearness. The silence pulsed again, and in that pulse I felt the world tremble. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. For every tear unseen I was watching, he said. For every prayer unanswered I was working. I saw flashes, a mother weeping alone in the dark, a man staring at an empty room, a child whispering a prayer no one else could hear. Tell them, he said, I heard everyone. I whispered, barely breathing, Lord, what do you want them to know tonight? That what they feel is not confusion, it's awakening. What they fear is not loss, it's release. What they call silence is me. He paused, and the stillness glowed gold. I am teaching my people to hear again, he said. To know my voice by presence, not performance. The wind blew through the window, not cold, but cleansing. They prayed for my power, he said, but I'm sending my peace first, because only peace can hold what's coming. The words vibrated through the room like invisible thunder. I felt every object tremble, not breaking, but awakening. I am drawing hearts back into alignment, he said. They will know me again, not by sermons, but by stillness. The world outside stirred, a single bird called out, confused by a dawn that hadn't arrived yet. It sounded like prophecy. When they feel the air change, he said, they'll know it's me moving. I whispered, Lord, is this the end? He smiled in his voice, no, it's the beginning of remembering. The light grew softer, and I saw glimpses, hands rising in prayer, voices whispering his name again, people waking in the middle of the night, not knowing why. This is how it starts, he said. I am calling them in their sleep. His tone was no longer commanding. It was tender. When the sound returns, he said, they will know it wasn't silence, it was set up. I was tuning hearts to my frequency. I asked, Lord, how will we know when it's you? You'll know, he said, because peace will arrive before words do. The room shimmered again, and suddenly I wasn't afraid anymore. The unknown didn't feel heavy. It felt holy. Tonight was not a warning, he said. It was preparation. He paused. What's coming next will not be easy, but it will be beautiful, because what shakes will shape. Outside, the sky began to lighten, not dawn, not yet, but something like it. The world was still wrapped in shadow, but the edges of everything had begun to glow. The message is this, he said. I am returning to the hearts that forgot me, and they will feel me before they see me. And then the wind stopped, the candle went out, but the light didn't leave. It lingered soft, steady, alive. Tell them to be still one last time, he said, because the next sound they hear will not come from this world. My chest tightened not in fear, but awe, because I could feel it. Something was near, closer than breathing, deeper than heartbeat. And then, for a moment, it was as if heaven itself exhaled. A sound too soft for ears, too deep for language, and yet I knew it. I'd felt it all along. This, he said softly, is how I begin. The silence returned, but this time it wasn't silence. It was his voice still echoing through everything that could feel. If you're still reading this and your heart feels heavy but alive, don't dismiss it. That's not emotion, that's encounter. Write I hear him in the comments. Because maybe this wasn't just my message, maybe it was yours too.